broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GALA webinar series. My name is Manuela Noske, and I'm the Communications Manager here at GALA. GALA is a global non-profit trade association that serves an international community of organizations and individuals to enable communication and business across languages and cultures. We're headquartered in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And today we're going to have a presentation by Philippe Galen from the European Commission. Before we begin, I need to go over a few housekeeping items. First of all, we have muted everyone's lines to cut down on any background noise. If you experience any technical difficulties, you can let me know by using your chat box, and I will try to work with you to troubleshoot them. If you have a slow internet connection, your audio may be disrupted. If that happens, you can use the number listed on the GoToWebinar panel to call in using your own phone. We are making a recording of this presentation, and you will be able to find it following the presentation on GALA's global website. All participants will receive a link. If you have any questions for the presenter, feel free to type them into your chat box throughout the webinar to get them into the queue. We will get to as many questions as we can with the time remaining at the end of the session. Lastly, one part of the presentation today will relate to an open call for funding. All raised questions and their answers will be made publicly available on the official page of the call for funding. So please consult that page after the webinar if you're interested. Next, let me introduce our presenter. Within the European Commission, Philippe Galen is in charge of the multilingualism sector in the Director General for Communications Networks, Content and Technology, developing European-wide policies including funding programs and research and deployments of language technologies. Philippe is originally from Belgium, where he received an engineering degree with a specialization in artificial intelligence. He received his PhD from the École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne in Switzerland on video indexation by speech recognition. After working for 2 years in California for a high-tech Japanese company and 2 years in a Belgian startup, he entered the European Commission in 2002, where he worked in several ICT domains. Since 2018, he has been in charge of the multilingualism sector with the aim of lowering the language barrier across Europe. And with that, Philippe, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Manuela. Welcome, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending where you're calling from. It's my pleasure here to present you the eTranslation service and systems that we are handling here in the European Commission. I'm not very experienced in this exercise, so please already receive all my apologies for the mistake I will do. I will try to be as clear as possible on this section. So the organization of this talk is very simple, even basic. It's section 3, sections past, present, and future. And the first one is the past. So I have to explain you a little bit what is the so-called e-translation system that we are running within the Commission, European Commission systems. And I'm already providing my apologies for all the acronyms and all the shortcuts that I might use and that you might not all understand, but I will try to do the best to make it as easy, understandable for everybody. So the e-translation system is an automatic translation that we have built within the Commission and that are serving two complementary purposes. The first one, which are mostly known from the professional, is the one coming from the Directorate General for Translation, the one on the left, and it's supporting the translation for all the EU institutions. Okay, it's also served some of the digital service within the EU institution. So, as I said, it's always an automatic translation, so it's basically used as pre-processing for the human translators of the EU institutions. There is another aspect which is supported by the CEF, and I will explain you what stands for CEF, eTranslation, which is actually supporting really the digital aspect of the automatic translation. So it serves the digital services, which are pan-European digital services, but also since recently are available to the member states of the European Union public administration. CEF translation. The ideas of and the concept of this part of the funding is really to lower the language barrier in the European digital single market. I added European because we are also speaking to non-European partners here. And the two actions are actually offering in the broad term multilingual solution for the pan-European digital public services, and also allowing, so thus enabling citizens and businesses to benefit from the service in their own language. That's really the localization aspect. CEF. It's when you look at the European point of view of digitalization, you have to understand that only 60% of the European can access the 5G network. That 90% of the job will soon require digital skills, and if we want to save billions of money, as usual we always want, for consumers, we need to directly go for shopping online. Also, there is also an aspect, which is that 50% of the cross-border purchases are actually blocked either by legal aspect or by practical aspect. So in order to maximize the economic potential of the digital single market, we have invested in 2007. It's a program between 2014, 2020, sorry, in a CEF call. So this one is also linked to actually the Digital Economic and Society Index, just to illustrate that all the countries part of the European Union are not equal in front of digitalization. So our goal here is also to ensure that every member, every citizen have a coherent and as equal as possible access to the digital single market. The CEF, which is called Connecting Europe Facility, was basically a funding program, and is still, which allow basically $1 billion funding in the telecom service, digital service infrastructures is called. So that was basically 1 billion. Out of that, we have developed several tools, several services, and I give you only a few examples. One, which is the e-justice portal, where you can have access to all the justice legal text from all the member states of the European Union. ODR stands for Open Dispute Resolution, where citizens can go and complain directly on the digital aspect of their life. So basically, when you go and buy something online, you can go and dispute and claim, generate a claim. Open Data is the portal that is providing you all the data that are collected mostly from the member state, from the administration, that are publicly available. It's a portal for you to get access to all of this. ESSI is for the social security employment scheme, so that exchange of information across the blocks. So these are what the so-called vertical application. Out of that, we also have created building blocks, which are actually tools that enable all of this one. So the tools are, for instance, the eID, which are identification of the people to connect to the portal. E-signature is the signature, and e-invoicing is for the security and encryption of the files across the portal. Exchange is the e-delivery, and there is the last but not the least is the translation with the eTranslation, which provide automatic translation service to some and more of these building blocks. eTranslation service. So as it stands right now, as of end of 2018, we have moved the previously statistical machine translation. We moved them to neural machine translation. So neural machine, let's call it artificial intelligence-based machine translation, to use a very nice buzzword. And it's available in the 24 official languages of the EU. 24 to 24. Obviously, it's not directly from Czech to Slovenian, so we use private language, but we have a tendency to reduce the number, to increase the number of private language, and also as to improve the overall quality. The specificity of the application is that it's obviously secured. It's because also it's used one of the previous building blocks that I mentioned, so the e-delivery and the eID systems, and it's scalable. It possesses multiple domain specific, where one which is public health, culture, banking, IP laws, case law, they are not all in 24 by 24 languages. And our specialty, let's call it this way, is the EU laws, as we have based most of the training, the generic trainings, on the corpus obtained by the built by the translators of the Commission in order to do the translation of all the laws, basically. Currently, there is 51 digital service connected, and in order to give you an idea of the volume that we have processed, in 2014 we have translated 14 million pages automatically. And it's only the beginning, basically. It's an improve as the year before it was only half of it, understanding that it was not a neural machine translation at that time. The latest record that we have is actually end of March, so not so long time ago, where on a single day we have 635,000 pages in one shot. So one of the aspects, and you know about that, is in order to build a good automatic translation, you need to get a good language resources. As I said, it's based mostly by the decades of human translation of the legal text. But in addition to that, we have also created a language resource collection where we've got currently about 1,000 language resources. Some are small, some are big, but at least it helps us building some interesting language translation systems, such as the English to Icelandic or the English to the Norwegian Bokmål. Icelandic and Bokmål, you would wonder why. It's because they are member state officially part of the CEF program, so we built the engine for them. The part of the resources was also contributed to the English to Gaelic engines. And currently we are also using the system to make the competition in the WMT 2019. And it will be used, the language resource collection will be used to build a generic engine, and it will also be used for going beyond automatic translation and offer other natural language processing tools like the summarization, but that's a little bit in the future. Talking about the present, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have the opportunity to present you the call. Within the CEF program, we have budget to lower the language barriers, as usual. It's my motto, I will call it this way, across the member state administration. And for that, we have foreseen 4 million euros for 2019 in the given call. The idea is to have projects that are granted about 200K or 800K euros in order to support 3 types of project, and we expect therefore to have between 5 and 20 projects. The idea is that it's co-funded, so that the participant has to come with 25% of the budget, and 25 other percent are given by us. We've foreseen project duration typically for 2 years, and the deadline for submission is the 14th of May. One thing not to forget about that. So what are these projects about? There are 3 priorities. One, which is the collection of language resources. The other one is the collection and language and tools. And the other one, which might be of more bigger interest for you, is to integrate and or complement the e-translation services into the digital service infrastructure for CEFs. So the one that I basically described, and there is a few more, a new one, to integrate and complement e-translation into any pan-European digital public services or public administration. And that's where I think it's very interesting for a professional in the language technology domain to understand that it's a way for you to participate and to be engaged and to get contact with the public administration in order to support the workflow of support of translation and therefore basically limiting the language barriers in all European public administration. I'm sorry that we are obviously European biased here. Okay, one of the constraints for this project is that it has to be fully functional and sustainable by the end of the project. And that's very essential. We are not talking about a research domain project. We are talking about really deployment exercise. Condition for participation, we try to make it as simple as possible. However, and happily we are an administration, so we have some constraints. One of them is that it has to be a consortium that apply for a proposal. The consortium has to be composed by at least 2 public or private entities and based in 2 or more member states, so understand European member state, and no EEA countries participating in the CEF Telecom program. So it's basically the EU countries, Norway, and Iceland. The proposal should address at least 2 languages. Well, I mean, if you are handling translation, it's a very reasonable request that we have imposed to you. And the one thing that has to be taken into account and not to be forgotten is that the consortium members of the proposal need a prior approval from the member state or the country agreement. It's a reasonably easy aspect to do, but it's a mandatory part. It's come from the early days of the program where the member state wanted to be sure that the money was not spent anywhere else, so they wanted to have a specific say or specific validation process. It is described in the official pages and you would find easily the place, but you have not to forget asking for it. Otherwise, you would be considered ineligible for the competition. I am here providing you a few examples. One of them is the cross-border e-procurement notification. That was a project that was launched a few years ago, or at least a year ago, that provide automatic translation of tendering information publishing by the Croatian, Slovenian, and Slovakian procurement system. So basically, if you look at the European law, every country has to make available on electronically the procurement that they are launching, the governmental procurement, let's call it this way, the public procurement. However, they are not forced to make it in 24 languages. The one that the Commission is doing, the one that the European Union at European level, we have to translate it in 24 languages, but it's not a requirement for all the single member states. So this project, what it was doing, was to take the Croatian one, the Slovenian one, the Slovakian one, and translating them in all the 3 languages and putting them back in the system. Understanding that it's not, as usual for automatic translation system, it's not legally binding, it's just to give you a gist of what this procurement was about. It's not 100%, it's not the aim and the understanding of it. It's just to give an opportunity for potential tenderer to see, well, this might be of interest for me, this and this, and then I'm going to ask for a translation for that. So I see it, this automatic translation, as an enabler for people to get access, but also for the translation community. It's basically surprisingly increasing the need for official human translation things. Another example is the AP Quest, which is to improve the CEF e-translation system with automated post-editing and quality estimation for the electronic exchange of social security information and online dispute resolution. This project was funded 600 or 700,000 euro over 2 years. Yes, two very quick example here. It's basically the layout of there is two services, one which is web-based, and as you see, it's a very basic one. It's a snapshot, so I cannot even play with it, where you have basically, you type your text in and you get your translation out. It's just for you to understand what is practically the translation. This is the human interface, the web's page interface. Understanding that it's not that you can also upload document and then you receive the translated document either by web service or by receiving them by email. That's basically the only thing that the system is currently doing right now, but it's already providing a lot of services. Another example of a project that has been running is the Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union, and it's run for different presidencies. So you know that in Europe, every 6 months, we change the hat of the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and it's moved from one country to the other country. So one of the projects was basically providing extensive service to the presidency of the council, basically providing translation system, but also supporting them on the mobile device for really the media services following the presidency. These ones are still online for you to have a look at if you want to get an example of one of the services. Okay, so these are the official links. You will receive, as far as understood, the PowerPoint presentation of the presentation, and these are the typical very important links. Obviously, you can Google or use any other browser to find the information. Call 2019 Automated Translation European Union. You will pretty easily find them to get all the official explanation on how to participate. Okay, as well as the example, you've got the link here or the official website for the eTranslation services. If you have any question related to that presentation, please send them as well to the email that is mentioned below, cnect-landtech@ec.europa.eu. We will try our best to answer them, understanding that this being a public procurement, we will make this question and answer public for the best of everybody. Now, a few minutes on the future, as I have you on the line. I cannot resist about that, is the next Word program. As you know, from 2021 to 2027, we are preparing the next funding scheme, which are pretty big budget because it might be 1,279, but it's terms of billions of euro if you are looking at the overall budget of the European Union for these 7 years. And there is two programs which are linked and of interest for you. One which is called the Digital Europe program, and the other one which is the Horizon Europe program. The Digital Europe program is the one that is focusing on digitalizing Europe, if you want. It's basically supporting the deployment of digital technologies across Europe. Two aspects of it: artificial intelligence, that are mostly of interest for us. So high performance computing, advanced digital skills, cybersecurity, these are important topics. The other one is artificial intelligence, where we'll have a say in terms of the deployment of the technologies related to language technologies, let's call it this way, and the digital transformation and interoperability, which is the one that will support the e-translation system. The other program is Horizon Europe, the research one, where we'll have our say in inclusive and secure societies, and the one in red in the middle, if you find it, the digital and industry. If I try to make it as a snapshot for multilingualism and how we will interact in Horizon Europe, so the research program and the other one, Digital Europe program, We will support language preservation. We will support research to achieve digital language transparency, so going beyond, but still improving textual translation, but also going to the speed translation and going to the mobile aspect, of the more versatile aspect of languages. In terms of capacity building, we will support and we will receive funding for the artificial intelligence to deploy additional natural language processing tools and resources. And in terms of deployment, we will keep on supporting the public administration in the area of public interest for lowering the language barriers and support the development of language technologies. I will go maybe a little bit fast on this one. It's the why, how, and the impact. Supporting language preservation, it's obviously, if you look at the digital world, there is a new wording which is called digital extension of languages, and this has been supported by the European Parliament, understanding that most of the language are dominated by one single language on the digital world, which is English, and some of them have some difficulty to transfer and to be visible, and in terms of culture, it's a very important aspect to maintain or to ensure that all the languages are present on the internet. In terms of Horizons Europe, for the research, it's obviously, as I said, digital language transparency is to improve the EU competitiveness and independence to external technology providers, to provide innovation technologies in language technologies. One of the important aspects is to support as well the SME in the system. And where will it be? It's the so-called next generation internet topics, which are to be mentioned as human-centric, which is a very important aspect, especially when you talk about languages. In the Digital Europe program, so basically the one that are doing the deployment, we will support, as I said, the deployment of language technology with a specific impact on public and private SME. So we will try to support the language technology providers across Europe to ensure that the technology is more and more used across Europe. And where are we going to do that and how is basically collecting their artificial intelligence improvement, the tools that can be deployed, so the basic tools, if you want, like machine learning technologies and the like, that are going to be deployed in artificial intelligence, to take them and to deploy them more specifically for the language technologies. And we will try to make them as available as possible across the different program and activities that we are going to engage in the Digital Europe program. Main of the target is as public as private, with a focus of the SME, so that to support the SME industry across Europe. One which is also important, which is basically the follow-up of the eTranslation, is really to support the modernization of public administration and area of public interest, just to show that we will keep on supporting the transfer of this technology. And that being said, I think this is my last slide, and I thank you for those who remain following my presentation. I thank you, and I'm opening to questions.
Thank you, Philippe. We have quite a few people following. So let me first of all say that, yes, we are planning to make your slides available as a PDF along with the recording, so people can sort of go back and digest the information. But we also really do want to encourage them to go and visit the websites that are part of this deck if they have questions about the specific funding that you're doing an open call for right now. And with that, we do actually have quite a few questions around eTranslate and who can use the tool. And so I'm wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about that. How can eTranslate be used?
So currently the eTranslation service is available to all public civil servants across Europe. And so there is two tools. One, which is the simple interface, which is human-based interface, and that's where only the officials of the administration has access to it. And there is the API, the machine-to-machine systems, which are, as I said, currently available to the member state public administration, the CEF building block, or the one that are basically pan-European digital public services, so which are public services and that are cross borders. That being said, technically speaking, when you apply to a proposal, it makes sense that you have a glimpse of what it is about. So we grant you a month access in order for you to have an idea of what this system is about, helping you to understand what are the limitations and the possibility of the tool. That would be in a snapshot. So it's not available to all EU citizens.
Yep. And so any plans to have an open, a publicly available API for the system?
Give me the money to do it.
Gladly would.
No, but that's mostly the constraint. I mean, honestly, we are running with limited funding, even if the funding are reasonably substantial. Making it open to everybody is one solution that we are studying continuously, but it's currently not the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Understanding that it could be very useful, but we have constraint in the deployment exercise.
Sure, like everybody, yes, I completely understand. So we have a variety of questions. Let me start with this one here. Someone is curious when that switchover was completed from statistical to neural machine translation.
So it was done over the last summer. Understanding that we have 24 languages and it's go one by one. It started with the most difficult one being Hungarian, and the more the more difficult language pairs. And it was basically finalized, if I remember well, the plan was to finish them by November 2018, but practically in September it was finished. So for those who had used the machine 2 years ago and has access to it or can find it, it's really definitely worth going and rechecking it because it has tremendously improved within the last year.
Okay, cool.
And the cycle, if I may, the cycle of development is basically twice every year. So every year we are trying to improve the models as the technology improve, basically.
All right, thank you very much. One participant here is curious about terminology management and how that does or will interact with domain-based neural machine translation. I'm not sure if that's your area of expertise, but...
No, but I know that the person obviously knows what he is talking about, because that's one of the problems in terms of technology of this new neural machine technology is that it's a wonderful black box where you that swallow whatever and get you sometime whatever as well. But we have problem for the terminology in order to ensure that the terminology is secured along the chain. There is work on that, but there is also challenges along the way. As I'm tempted to say, these are I'm amazed by the versatility and the development cycle of the technology. I know that technology go faster and faster, development cycles go faster and faster, but here we are talking about basically a year between research and deployment. And deployment in large-scale exercise. Well, let's call it the famous 18 months, maybe. So yes, we are working on it. No, it's not exactly available. I know that in terms of terminology, the system is very good because it's based on the language corpus that we possess within the European Commission. So it's very large in terms of terminology, but we do not have currently a system to ensure that the terminology is respected from one or the other domain, especially that terminology vary from domain to domain. So It's a yes and a no. We know about the problem, thank you, and all our engineers are working on the solution right now.
All right. I will send you all of the questions that our participants have, but there is quite a few questions that are asking about, making the eTranslation solution more widely available. And so I just wanted to pose one more in that direction here. So are there any plans to make eTranslation accessible to external translation providers working with DGT or other EU institutions? Considering that would be really good for consistency, terminology, keeping costs down.
I honestly come from the CEF aspect and the real use of automatic translation systems for the sake of automatic translation system and not in the workflow of the professional translation. So that's, I admit that I'm not the perfect knowledgeable person for this one, and that is more for the DG translation that are translator for the EU institution and the like. But as far as understood, the work process is actually when an external translator has to work on a given domain, he is provided with the data banks of translation banks, which are potential solution for his or her translation. And one of them is containing the e-translation system of translations. So they have access to it for the task that they are asked to do. Now, I don't think that they have direct access to the tool as such, because they would be able to use it for all the rest of the world as well, and for all the additional work as well. And for us, it's important that we have a limited quantity of possibility of translation as well. So I don't think it's halfly available, let's call it this way, offline, let's call it this way. I don't know if there is a solution or plan to make it live available.
Okay, thank you. I got one question here that's a bit more provocative, and it's this, at the moment the US is leading NMT, so names that I mentioned here are Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Asia is emerging sort of as the top underdog. Can you compete at all in MT?
Hey, and then I'm going to turn back. Let's be provocative. The best competition of machine translation, it's called WMT, and we are competing.
All right. And are you succeeding?
We have this year. This year we are open, and I think my colleagues has already submitted the solution for the WMT 2019. So let's see what's going to happen. So let's make the provoke to provoke. Let's challenge, okay? Yes. The American way. Let's go up on the ring and let's box a little bit.
Could you
being said,
I like that. We got a question about what WMT actually is.
It's the World Machine Translation. No, it's the competition, open competition of machine translation done by researchers, basically. Search for WMT. It's only it's only 3 words, 3 letters. 2019 competition machine translation, and it's publicly available. Most of the big guys are playing this exercise. So Google is there. I would guess that Microsoft and are there. Sometimes they name themselves, or sometimes they mention themselves as being machine 1, machine 2. Okay, so it's a non-secret. Let's call it this way.
Yeah,
I do hope that at least the e-translation has been named as e-translation and not at machine 3. Otherwise, it definitely would not be fun. That being said, one thing that I learned from last year, and I'm not going to talk about e-translation here, so to be fair, is that when you look at the corpus, when you look at the quality of the automatic translation, yes, Google has some, yes, Microsoft has some, but it's still the small localized experts that are best at. So if you look, for instance, for the German, English, German, I don't know which one of the two, it was actually Aachen University who turned out to be the best. If you look at the Latvian translation, which was one of the competitive language, it's Tilde, so one of the Latvian company, which was the best as well. So my message there is that machine translation has drastically improved.
Yes.
Over the last 2 years with the neural-based system. And we are all the technology providers are very close one to each other.
Yes.
And that, I think, it's a message, and let's everybody compete in order to keep on progressing, of course. And of course, Google and the big one has far more money than us, but that doesn't prevent us to be competitive and challenge them on the ring.
I like that. Thanks. Thank you. We have one a specific question that I also picked up on. That is, we understand post-editing to typically be a human effort, but you mentioned automatic post-editing. What is that?
Did I said so? Okay, maybe it was then a mistake. I would not see. Oh, I could imagine a few cases where automatic translation could support it, but mostly what I see. Oh yeah, that's true. Automatic post-editing. Well, I suggest you to go to the AP Quest search about that acronym and try to understand what it means, because I have questions there as well. What I know is basically linked to the quality estimation. For me, it's one of the great ideas that are floating around to be able to not only automatically translate the document, but also to provide an estimation, a quality estimation of the translation. And that's most probably also linked to the automatic post-editing exercise. So apologize for not explaining you technically what it is about. I do not know all the project, and I'm not from the field. Well, it's about a year, but the key points there is really the quality estimation that would really support the human post-editing.
Cool.
If it was working perfectly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for explaining. I got a question about capability building. Essentially, a lot of the people on the call, a few people work for language technology providers, but quite a few work for small or medium language services or localization vendors. And you're talking about very large funding programs that are available. How can, these smaller or medium-sized vendors get themselves ready to be competing for that kind of funding? What is needed? Is it an alliance building exercise? Is it capacity? In your estimation, what does it take?
To get the 200,000 euro, there is one key word here, which is the European added value. So prove that your idea is really beneficial for Europe in the lowering the language barriers. That's one thing. Second, it's indicative grants. So if you come back with a proposal which is only 20,000 euro and which do the same thing than the other one that's proposing 2 million, well, I'm sure that you will be the winning one. So these are only indicative grants. But obviously, in order to get a reasonable impact, it might worth putting yourself with your colleagues. If you are a specialized localization company in Slovakia, it's the opportunity to pick up the phone and to call the friends that you know in Germany and the one that you know in Italy, and try to get a conglomerate of at least 3 small companies that has a good ideas. I don't know, it can be in the public administrations related to culture or whatever, and providing I don't know, I'm not going to give you ideas, but systematically translation of all the websites related to tourism for the Ministry of Tourism of your local ministries. Then 2 make 3, I'm sure that the 2,000 euro you'll be able to consume them. That I would not have doubts.
All right. Thank you for those tips. What I think would be our final question, that is around emerging technologies in Europe. Do you actually actively monitor the efforts, the emerging technologies, or do you take a more sort of receptive approach, waiting for those to be brought to your attention? I mean, what's the balance between you going out and watching what's going on in Europe as opposed to waiting for people to carry their work and their efforts to you?
Two aspects here. I have the feeling that I have two caps. The one, and it's basically illustrated on the two programs. There is one which is Horizon Europe, the other one which is Digital Europe program, one which is research. And obviously in research domain, we are not waiting for receiving the technology in.
Yeah.
So we are practically and efficiently spending money in order to get the next generation of technology up and running. However, on the Digital Europe program, so on the CEF program, it's more deployment exercise. So we assume that the technology is there, and we take the best technology which is available in order to apply it on the other side. So it's no, we are not waiting to get the technology coming to us. In terms of European Union point of view. Now, if the company, if the intention of the question was, do you as translation services wait to receive the services, the updated services coming from outside? It's a yes and a no. If there is nice technology and nice application, come and talk and to see, but we are obviously already aware of a lot of them, and I mean money is always one of the link. So if it's to deployment within the administration, so getting a procurement to support the administration in a new domain, that's a little bit difficult. So we are usually proactive, so we know what we want and we go and ask for it. In research, it's totally different.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So for people who would like to stay abreast of what's cooking, what's happening, what's coming up in Europe, what new programs are getting funded, so both, for instance, in terms of the Horizon Europe, but also the Digital Europe program, what is the best way of keeping up? You know, the websites that the EU develops are complex. Let's put it that way. You know,
that's a nicely
yes.
Thank you.
How do I know?
Not in all languages, by the way.
Exactly. So how do I know, like, when there's something coming up that's really relevant for me? What would you suggest? How can I follow this?
I'm currently fighting for that in order to make it as clear as possible for having a big stream of information that is easily captured by the domain, the professional of the domain, basically. Currently, there is a few Horizon Europe and Digital Europe program. Tweets are something that are very useful these days. We've got a few activities which are linked to disseminate and contact with the language industries. I start to get contact with the GALA, for instance. I don't know if you know this association, but try to promote our information, and I guess that I'm reaching a pretty good public here. There is also industry association in Europe which are having contact with. And there is as well the eTranslation website there that it's somewhere here, which gives you the latest update on eTranslation. And for the research, I mean, the search engine of the browsers are pretty good, actually, pretty efficient. And when we open a call, we ensure that the calls are visible by everybody.
Okay. All right.
So, okay.
That sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Philippe, for taking the time and walking us through, you know, the funding that is available, as well as giving us an outlook on what's next in the EU. It's very exciting to hear. Thank you also to all of our participants for all of the active questions that we got from you. I will relate those on to Philippe. And we would really appreciate it if our audience could take just a moment to give us feedback on today's session using the post-event survey that will pop up right after this. It is short, but it helps us to refine our webinar program. And if there are topics that you would like to see covered, this is your best way of letting us know what those would be. And so with that, Philippe, thank you very much. I wish you a good evening, a good quiet evening in Europe, and to everybody else, either a good day or a good night. Thank you for
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.